Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's trivia. Purple, good evening. Kitty Coo, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Kitty Coo's got her notes, but Purple didn't study. It's understandable. It's understandable. We can't study every one of these. Well, I hope you both had a great weekend. Yeah, and, just a public service and warning. As you can hear, there's light music in the background. I cannot change it. I can't get rid of it. And the format of how things are displayed on the screen. I'm testing out different formats. Probably another week or so while I try to see how things will fit on the screen. I hopefully it's not too much of a bother the way things have been moved around, but trying out different things because all these new features have come available to me, and I don't know how they're necessarily going to display on your end or on your device. If you're on a cell phone, tablet, computer, PC, they may show slightly different on each device. So I have to test them out so I can actually check them out later on, versus the different devices and how they look. Good evening, Cement Shoes. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Tonight, all the questions are on Samuel Little. Mine's been good weekend. Thanks. Hope yours has been peaceful. Mine has been peaceful as much as it could be. Gayla, good evening, Gayla. Welcome to tonight's trivia. You went to Oregon and back for graduation? Wow. Grandchild? Niece, nephew? It is that time of year. A lot of college graduates too. High school. Friend of mine's little girl just graduated from kindergarten yesterday. So but it just again, as you probably hear like the light music in the background. I can't change it. It's already it's in the program itself. And again, things have moved around on the screen a little bit. Hopefully, it's not too much of a bother for you. I'm trying out different formats and how things are displayed on the screens. So you're watching the protests in California. I saw that they sent out the National Guard for the protests. That's pretty odd that they would do that. I can think of at least three other occurrences where we've had protests in America in the last couple of years where they should have sent out the National Guard or somebody, to keep the peace. But good evening, Pippadot. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope you had a great weekend. Seclusion works. I'm listening, but at work, stepping into the simulator to have a life-size view of a virus. Ooh, wow. That sounds interesting. Gianna Marie, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope you had a good weekend. Hope you had a great week as well. Okay, so we're going to get this started again. Things have changed around on the screen a little bit from how they're normally displayed. This will probably might have probably one more test after this weekend, and then that's it. But I am trying out the different. It's all new to me, and there's like total like 16 different ways to display things, along with this background music and everything else. And it's mind-boggling how many different options there are. But again, I'm trying them out. All right, this is the 360th episode of trivia night. Tonight we are dealing with the devil himself, Samuel Little. Trivia tonight strictly adheres to factual evidence and verified data from the FBI, Department of Justice, and Scotland Yard whenever needed. It does not include conspiracy theory speculations or unverified claims about what may have happened. If you are seeking sensationalism of content related to similar theories or lies spread by those who can't be bothered to do the research, this event and topic may not be the right fit for you. Neither I nor my advertisers or sponsors associated with this content shall be held responsible for individuals under the age of 17 accessing this material. Every single site that I stream to, I have it age restricted. And if they're under the age of 17, that's not my problem if they're accessing it, nor can I be held responsible for it. Additionally, we are not liable for comments or live chat messages as they do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of us. That is not for YouTube. That is for the other venues like Facebook, where people just feel like, you know what, it's a dumpster fire already, and I'll say whatever the hell I want in the comments. Right now, on Facebook, I have blocked more people than actually do view it. Yeah, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes. This program documents actual crimes and offenses by criminals. Some of the content covered here may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewers' discretion is advised. With that said, this is how the questions that normally have been in the past, where in this format, where you see the picture to your right, the question to the top, and the answers possible to the bottom. Question number 1 on Samuel Little, the evil that killed at will. What year was Samuel Little officially arrested and charged with multiple murders? A, 2000, B, 2001, C, 2016, or D, 2012. And good evening, Sprinkled Donut. Welcome to tonight's trivia. When we get to question number 2, you will see the format change of how it's going to be displayed for tonight. No, there is no little window on this one. I can't put it myself in a little window for question number 1. You'll see when we go to question number 2. Excuse me. Okay, the kid's going with D, Pepper Dot D, Gianna Marie, B, Cement Shoes, C, Inner Peas, 1999. Good evening, Inner Peas. Cement Shoes, C, Sprinkled Donut is going with D. Question number 1, the correct answer is D as in dog. He was arrested and charged with multiple murders in 2012. All right, question number 2. And here's the change. There I am in the little window off to your right, left, as it is displayed. There's no more scroll at the bottom, but I can't take away the music. I'm sorry. You'll also see that the question is a little bit smaller. It's not full screen because this puts me all the way to this side of the screen as opposed to down here in the corner, down here where I would normally be. Then I'm over here in the upper left-hand middle. September 5th, 2012, LOL. And yes, remember to be on live chat, all message, not on, remember to be on all messages or live. Top chat will show you the messages, but you will be in delay. Question number 2. Which federal agency confirmed Samuel Little as the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history? Was it A, the U.S. Marshal's Office, B, the Department of Defense, C, Texas Rangers, Texas Office, or D, FBI? Kitty Q is going with D, but might not be. Cement Shoes going with D. Gianna Marie, B. Kitty Q then stuck with it, D. Sprinkle Donut, Purple, and Gala is going with B. The others are going with D. Question number 2 of 20. Julie Cummins. Good evening, Julie. And Julie is going with A. I hope you had a great weekend, Julie. Glad you could be here with us tonight for trivia. All right, question number 2. The correct answer is, again, D as in dog. The FBI confirmed that Samuel Little is the most prolific serial killer ever caught and studied in U.S. history. And he also is the most prolific serial killer ever to be known. That excludes those who may have killed and were never studied. But he is the most prolific serial killer. How many murders has Samuel Little actually been confirmed to have killed? He has killed 90 plus women, 90 plus in his killing history. And just a month ago, they confirmed yet another one after his death. They're still finding his victims and exhuming bodies that can be exhumed and testing them again, and for DNA and for other evidence. But a lot of the initial victims, there was not very much forensic evidence. They just didn't think about it back then. Looking for forensic evidence on it because of how he killed his actual victims. But 90 plus victims. Question number 3. How many murders did Samuel Little ultimately confess to? Was it A, 114, B, 93, C, 102, or D, 90? Question number 3 of 20. How many murders did Samuel Little ultimately confess to? It blows your mind, Sprinkle Donut. How can people become like this? Yeah, it does. It's pretty shocking when you think about it. But I wouldn't exactly say that. I mean, most of Samuel Little's early childhood was surrounded with abuse, neglect, and being shuttled off from home to home. He never had a stable environment growing up when he was younger, as a child. Education was not ever a priority, nor was mental health or, even nutrition. He was always just like, and I hate to use the term, but he was basically a bastard child that just got shoveled off from one relative to another to a family friend. And he didn't have to become the person he became, but in and out of jail as a juvenile and in and out of jail and prison as an adult. And every time he got back out of jail, he just went back to doing what he knew best. Question number 3. The correct answer is B as in boy. He confessed to 93 murders. And for all 93 murders that he confessed to, he sat down and gave a detailed interview to a former, well, he's now retired, Texas Ranger that he became friends with. He would bring him Domino's pizza and Diet Dr. Pepper or Pepsis, and they would just sit and talk. And Samuel Little would draw a picture of each and every one of the victims because he had a photogenic memory of everything. And it was like him just replaying a movie in his mind of every single one of the 93. Again, he drew pictures or painted pictures of every single one of the 93. But we now know that his murder count is higher than 93. And of the 93, they can't exhume all of them. Some of them were awards of the state after they died because nobody claimed the bodies, and they were cremated and they were buried in a pauper's grave, or they sat on a shelf at a crematorium unclaimed, and if they had names for them. Some of them were just listed as Jane Does, or they're not even given the name Jane Doe and just given a number. That is sad, because every one of his 93 plus victims all had a family or somebody at some point that cared about them and needs, closure of what happened to their loved one. But 93 plus. I'd love to see those pictures. You can find them all online, Pippadot, of each and every one of them. They're very, very well documented. And the Texas Ranger, before he retired, turned over all of the research and interviews and everything else with Samuel. He videotaped the interviews with Samuel Little. And Samuel went back, started with the very first victim, and then worked his way to the, before he was arrested and incarcerated on multiple counts of murder. And just sat there, and it was like watching somebody replay a movie and then read off the cliff notes. He remembered what they looked like, how he picked them up, how he murdered them, where he dumped their bodies, and over the years, going back through the case, the areas where he said he dumped these people, he probably did, because he didn't lie about anything. He knew that his time on this earth was very short, because he had a lot of health issues towards the last couple of years of his life. And the geographic location where he dumped these bodies, they have no record, in some of the cases, of ever finding a victim there. What happened to them? Did they get bulldozed over, to make a parking lot? Did somebody else, find the body and mislabel, where the body was found? We don't know. All right, moving on to the next question. Question 4. What U.S. state was Samuel Little born in and lived in for the first 3 years of his life? Was it A, Alabama, B, Georgia, C, Florida, or D, Texas? Oh, yeah. He remembered, Pippadot, on that same thing about remembering them. He remembered what they looked like. He remembered their hair, how they wore their hair, what clothes they wore, how tall they were, how heavy they were. But there's only one detail about every single one of the victims that he couldn't remember. And we'll get to that as the trivia goes on tonight. Question number 4 of 20. What U.S. state was Samuel Little born in and lived in for the first 3 years of his life? Smoke them if you got them. Interpee's state of confusion. Question number 4 of 20. The correct answer to question number 4 is B, as in boy. He lived in the state of Georgia for the first 3 years of his life. When he was 4 years old, he was sent to his grandmother home, and she lived in the state of Mississippi. He lived there for about 6 months of his life and then was shipped off from there onto an aunt who lived in Florida. And then he lived there for a short period of time. As much as my research I did in this case, I could not figure out how long he lived in Florida. But eventually ended back with an uncle and a cousin in back in Georgia again. So, but the first 3 years of his life, he lived in the state of Georgia and the state of confusion. Question number 5. Of all the murders Samuel Little confessed to, which method did he confess was his main method to murder? Was it A, strangulation, B, stabbing, C, shooting, or D, poisoning? Question number 5. Ooh, sprinkled donuts on a roll. 4 out of 4 so far. Let's see if we can get it up. Number 5. So Gianna Marie Pippadot Cement Shoes are going with A. Gala, A as well. Purple, A. This little picture that you see here on the question, that is just a sample of all the different mug shots of Samuel Little from over the years. Between the time that Samuel Little was 15 years old till the time that he was arrested in the state of California and charged with multiple murders, he was arrested a total of 21 times. 21. Also, it was more of a smothering as he didn't break the hyoid bones. True. And in that aspect, you're onto something there, Pippadot. You're onto something there. Question number 5. The correct answer is A as in apple. Yes, strangulation, but as Pippadot pointed out, it is more of a, I guess, a smothering, because he did not break the hyoid bones in the neck, but he did strangle them. Some of them with ropes, other times with belts and other things that he had already pre-planned and had in his car. Oh, hold on, I got some stupid pop-ups. These stupid things, I updated my malware, and now every single day I get another pop-up asking me to upgrade to the same thing I've already bought and paid for. Why? I don't know. Oh well. Did you know when Samuel Little was sentenced to 3 life terms, he was heard in court saying to his attorney, "They are clueless to what I have really done." People who were sitting in the actual gallery of the court behind the defendant, and the court heard him say loud enough to his attorney after being sentenced to 3 life terms, they are clueless to what I've really done. Question number 6. After Samuel Little's death, how many murders were confirmed by law enforcement? Was it A, 67, B, 219, C, 66, or D, 109? Question number 6 of 20. After Samuel Little's death, how many murders were actually confirmed by law enforcement? Ooh, cement shoes is going with D. I am drinking purified water tonight, and it's a Kroger brand water because I'm cheap. Let's see, we got cement shoes going with D, Gala D, purple D, kitty coo C, question mark, I don't know, could be. And Pippa Dot says, this one's got me. How many murders has law enforcement confirmed after he died? Kitty Coo changing it to D. Sprinkle Donna says the streak may end. Pippa Dot D with 3 question marks. That is seriously questioning. Is it D when you put that many question marks behind your guess? Kitty Coo skimming your notes. LOL. Well, Kitty Coo, you should have stuck with C because the correct answer is C as in cat. Law enforcement as of 2025 of this year have only been able to confirm 66 of his actual murders. Now, with that in mind, some of the women that he said that he murdered, they were unable to confirm again that they were ever murdered because there was very little forensic evidence on the bodies, and some of these women that he said he killed, they said, well, we don't have any records of someone being killed and dumped in this location. Now, again, they're probably, we know there's over 30 more that have not been confirmed. Were they, cremated? Because look, it's just another dead prostitute, another dead runaway or drug addict, and they just didn't care. Every one of his, not everyone, but a large majority of his victims were marginalized. And they lived on the outskirts of normal society, and you put quote marks around that, quote, around normal society. Wah, wah, wah. All right, but 66 is the correct answer. Question number 7. What demographic of women did Samuel Little target the most frequent? Was it A, fangirls of Lori Vallow, B, drug addicts, C, runaways, or D, fangirls of Chad Daybell? Well, why did they label them as natural deaths? Why did they? All right, I'll read that again. Pippa Dot asks, why did they label them as natural deaths or overdoses? I wish I could answer the question. That answer, have an answer for you on that, Pippa Dot. Look, there are 3 things that we need to, when it comes to Samuel Little and his victims in the victimology, that we have to look at, and you'll understand quickly on why they didn't do a lot of investigation into the victims of Samuel Little. One, again, they were marginalized, victims. They were either prostitutes, drug addicts, runaways, or they lived on the outskirts of society, and unfortunately, the individuals that he killed predominantly were African American women. there's not a a huge priority when it comes to back then to doing a lot of like research into who killed another prostitute, who killed another African American prostitute. And that's unfortunately that's the way that the law enforcement looked at it back then. Yeah, racist. Was it wrong? Yeah, all of that. But it didn't. If they're going to spend your resources on it, you got to figure out who killed the single white housewife from suburbia first. You got to solve that crime because that's going to keep the attention of the newspapers and the everyone out there. They're not going to. If you spend all your resources on trying to solve the murder of an African American prostitute, I mean, that's not going to keep the attention of the media, and if it's wrong, but that's the fact of life. But question number 7, the correct answer for the demographic that Samuel Little targeted the most, the correct answer is B as in boy, drug addicts. Drug addicts were his number 1 most targeted. Number 2 were prostitutes. Number 3 were runaways and those who drank, alcoholics, women who excessively drank. They're tied, according to the FBI's data, on the demographics for the people that Samuel Little targeted. Question number 8 of 20. Samuel Little had a photographic memory of each and every victim, along with the ability to recall every detail, but what? Was it A, the names of the victims? B, if they were part of the 144,000? C, if he ran them over in the snow? Hence a Karen Reed. Or D, what trophy he took from them? Question number 8 of 20. Samuel Little had a photographic memory of each and every victim, along with the ability to recall every detail, but what? You're absolutely true in your statement there, Sprinkle Donut. Evil has definitely walks among us. Hence the investigation, the manhunt for Travis Decker. If you don't know who Travis Decker is, you should read about it. I'm sure if you just put the name Travis Decker into any search engine that you may use, you will find, the story about Travis Decker. Christopher Watts killed 2 of his children and his unborn son. Travis Decker killed all 3 of his daughters. He zip-tied their hands behind their backs and suffocated them with a plastic bag, and then dumped their bodies down an embankment. The manhunt for Travis Decker, as far as I know, is still going on. They believe that he may be hiking the Pacific Crest hiking trail in Washington, trying to make his way to Canada. At least that's the theory right now. One of many. Oh, you did? Kitty Coo? Time frames or distance either. Distance as in distance from a river or a landmark, or distances from the road. Question number 8 of 20. I don't believe so, Sprinkle Donut. As of me coming on the air tonight, I haven't heard from my wife and them if he has been caught. Unfortunately, my wife and my family were at a cabin that was originally near where the search manhunt for him was going on. They since moved them to another. They moved to another cabin, 20 plus miles away, but in the opposite direction where the search is going on. But as far as I know, he is still out there. Question number 8, the correct answer is A as in apple. He could not remember the names of all of his victims. He remembered the names of the more recent ones, but not the ones before them. Or if he did remember the name, he remembered them only by the street name that they went by. You're guessing from place to place, maybe landmark. It very well could be Pipitot. I know that for a couple of different victims that he had killed in Georgia, he could remember dumping them in it's kind of like a light industrial area, at least it was back then. But he just remembered that he dumped their bodies near a tree, but he could not say it was 50 yards or 100 yards or right off the road. A lot of his victims, once he was done with them, he just got rid of them. He didn't care. He didn't care if you found him tomorrow or if you found him in 8 months from now. He didn't care. He was done with them. Question number 9. What unusual talent did Samuel Little have to aid law enforcement to be able to solve countless cold cases? Was it A, he drew portraits of each victim? B, he knew the GPS of each body? C, he showed them the trophy cases? Or D, he wrote songs about the murders? What unusual talent did Samuel Little have to aid the law enforcement to be able to solve countless cold cases? Well, I remember reading about him and watching a movie. No way could I keep up with the victims. I couldn't. Then again, I couldn't imagine committing one murder, let alone 90 plus. I'm on the fence if they will find Decker alive. Well, sprinkled donut, I can tell you what his father believes. His father believes that after, and he gave this in an interview with CNN, and it was also broadcast on East Idaho News and a couple other news stations. His father believes that his son Travis, who has extensive outdoor wilderness experience from his teenage years on, he would go and live off the grid, doing survivalist tactics with minimal tools or supplies. He would do it sometimes for a weekend, sometimes for a week. That was as a teenager. Then he got experience in high altitude training when he was in the Army. But his father believes that if he really is suffering from a mental health crisis at this point, or at that point when he killed his daughters, his father believes that he dispatched himself shortly thereafter. He doesn't want to believe that that's what he did, but that was what he thinks, he may have done. And the dense forest of the area where, all this took place and where they found his daughters, that is some thick forest in the Cascade mountain range. He could be 200 yards off the road hanging from a tree, and it may be months before anyone finds him. Or if they find him, later on, it'll be just some bones, that are found from, by a hiker or something. Gail, don't even remember the names of some of your relatives anymore. Trust me, I have that same issue. I'm like, oh, what the hell is my niece's name? Because I grown up just calling them by their nicknames, and then I have to stop and think, like, okay, what the hell is their real name? Question number 9, though. The correct answer is A as in apple. He drew portraits of each and every victim. Again, they may have only been able to confirm at this point 66, but he did drawings, and he gave a complete interview of all of his victims at this point, 90 plus victims. When it's all said and done, I would not be surprised if at the end, if they're able to confirm that his total victims, for Samuel Little, are going to be somewhere about 97 or 98. Question number 10. In the later years, while talking with Texas Rangers officer, Little admitted he could remember how he could, it should be couldn't, remember how many murders he committed where. Was it A, Washington, D.C., B, Washington State, C, Alabama, or D, Mississippi? Again, that should say couldn't. In later years, while talking with Texas Ranger officer, Little admitted he couldn't remember how many murders he committed where. Ryan's do the search for Brian Laundrie. And Brian Laundrie, as big as the piece of excrement as he was, he's still a victim. His family, that is. Let me make sure that you're absolutely clear on what I meant there. Brian Laundrie's family still lost their son, and they were victimized. Not Brian. Brian was the perpetrator. He killed Gabby. Unfortunately, though, we don't have enough awareness that goes out to people. If you're in a relationship like that, like Brian and Gabby, that you need to get the hell out. The moment any man raises his hand in anger towards you is the last second you should be in that relationship. Because if they're willing to do it once, they're willing to do it again. I don't care how much therapy you give them. Why put yourself in that position again? Question number 10. The correct answer, as a vast majority of you have guessed, is C as in cat. He could not recall exactly how many murders he had committed in the state of Alabama. All right, that is the first 10 questions of the night. Did you know he didn't not just kill drug addicts and runaways and hookers? Of the 90 plus confession, he killed 11 mothers who had jobs, and he picked them up in bars, restaurants, and bowling alleys. 11 of his victims were mothers. 11 of the 90 plus. But that is our first 10 questions on Samuel Little. Now we will be on break for the next 7 minutes, but I'm going to be covering 2 cases of missing and endangered individuals. Both of tonight's cases come from the Center for Missing and Exploited Children Network. If you don't have to stick around for this, but you will have time after I'm done with these 2 to still take a break. Again, I got quite a few comments about this, so in red there you will see that I've made it very clear. The 7-minute break time does not start until I start reading the actual first case. So people are like, well, no, your break time last time was 9 minutes, because it doesn't start until I start the first one. Again, I'm normally every week I'm working with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the Charlie Project, the FBI, and NAMUS, and occasionally other groups. And we are together. We are hoping to shine a spotlight on these cases, and and bring the resolution for the family who are missing their loved ones. Again, both of the cases tonight are coming from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The first one is Larry Dean Williams. He would be 56 years of age this year. He was last seen on January 25th, 1975. The picture you see here is an aged enhanced picture of what he would look like at approximately the age of 50. Okay, so it's like about 6 years ago, but you can age a little bit more what somebody would look like at 56. He disappeared from Long Beach, California. 4'9" in 1975. Could he have grown beyond that since 1975? Of course he could have. Again, it was 80 to 85 pounds in 1975, and obviously he would be a lot heavier today. Eyes brown, hair color brown. He has a scar on his abdomen and no medical conditions that are known at the time when he disappeared, again on January 25th, 1975. Details about the disappearance of Larry. Was last seen leaving his home in Long Beach, California on January 25th, 1975 on the way to the beach. He frequently hitchhiked between Long Beach and Seal Beach, California. Take a close look at the second picture. All right, that's the younger picture. Taken closely, tips were called in 1976, a year after he disappeared, regarding a boy who may have been kidnapped and was moved off to Utah. The tip was never confirmed, but resurfaced again during an investigation in 1999. Again, the one on the bottom is what he would look like at the age of 50. He would be 56 today. But the one at the top is what he looked like in 1975. And that is the last known picture of what he looked like. But again, there was a tip that was called in 1976, a year after he disappeared, and that same tip resurfaced again during an investigation in 1999. Do you know anything that may have happened to Larry or where he could be? If you know anything, you can call the tip line of 562-435-6711, and that is the Long Beach Sheriff's Department. But if you know anything about what happened to Larry, where he may be today, you definitely call in. I cannot guarantee that you can remain anonymous at that tip line. It does not state if you can. It doesn't say that you can't either. I just can't guarantee it. Next is Kush Cole Burstein, age 7. Last seen on 10/12 of 2022 in Honolulu, Hawaii. 4'6", 60 to 70 pounds. Again, in 2022, he was 4'6", 60 to 70 pounds. Brown hair, brown eyes, no tattoos, no medical conditions known that would, aid, like what happened to him or answer what happened to Kush. Kush, details of the last, of the disappearance. Kush disappeared along with his brother Koa and his mother Abigail. They were last seen at the Aliwai Boat Harbor in Honolulu, Hawaii on October 12, 2022. They were going to leave on a year-long sea journey with somebody Abigail met online. That is according to the family. For what they knew, it was somebody that she had met online. They didn't know how long or how frequent she'd even known that, or how long that she had known this person. The family never returned, and they have never been heard from again. Prior to her disappearance, Abigail lived a nomadic lifestyle. She had cut off ties with the family and canceled her cell phone services. The boys were not enrolled in school at the time. Authorities believe she and the children were off the grid somewhere in Hawaii. Abigail has ties to the Big Island, Kauai, and Maui. The family also has ties to Naples, Florida, Petsky, Michigan, and Lancaster, Michigan. Again, look at the photo of Cush. There are no really good pictures of his brother, is why I'm only putting the one brother there. Otherwise, I would post a picture of his brother as well. All right. Other pictures of Cush as well. The one at the top with the hat. A lot of times in a lot of the photographs, Cush is also seen in multiple pictures wearing a baseball cap backwards. The one there he is wearing is a pink hat that is set for Maui, Hawaii. The FBI is heading the investigation into the disappearance of Cush and his brother Koa. The FBI is asking that you please do not contact law enforcement in any of the law enforcement in Hawaii, and to contact them directly, because they believe that Cush's mother Abigail may have been receiving assistance in helping to evade detection prior to them leaving the island. If you know anything about what happened to Cush, Koa, or where Abigail are, the three of them, you can call the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and you can remain anonymous. But trust me, ladies and gentlemen, the FBI will track your ass in a heartbeat if you even prank phone call them. But if you really know something about where Cush, Koa, and Abigail are, you can call 808-673-2719. You do have additional time left in your break. At this point, you have 2 minutes and 5 seconds of your break. If you've enjoyed the first half of tonight's trivia, please give this a thumbs up and consider subscribing to this channel so you can be notified when we do the next live stream and when the next content comes out. Cuff you. Good evening and welcome to tonight's channel. Yeah, I saw the channel on Crafted Evidence last night when you were doing a live over there. Well, thank you, Cuff. I'm glad you're checking out my content tonight. Cuff, make sure you are on live chat or all chat, not top chat. It should be noted that also additionally, for everyone, Cush and Koa, his brother, both of them had long hair at the time of that they disappeared, but it does not mean that they both have long hair now. But when they were living, with mom in Hawaii, they both had longer hair. Again, there's not a really good picture to post of what Koa looked like, just Cush. Oh, it's all right, Pippa Dot. But they could be anywhere in the world. They don't have to be in America anymore. They could be, living, on an island resort, in Mexico. They could be in Australia, New Zealand. They could be anywhere. But by 2000, the end of 2023, they should have made landfall somewhere and got a hold of somebody. But she had cut off all contact with family. And that's where the family, and said, look, they know she met this person online, but they don't know when or how long they'd even known each other, just how they met. And she was a nomadic, individual, a free spirit, I guess, with raising two boys in a kind of the off the grid situation. You have 1 minute left. You have 11 seconds. Without any further delay, let's get back to our normal programming. Question number 11 is now on your screen. How did Samuel Little afford to move across the U.S. and kill whenever he wanted? Was it A, he worked as a line cook? B, he worked as a day laborer? C, he sold drugs? Or D, he sold what he stole from victims? Question number 11 of 20. How did Samuel Little afford to move across the U.S. and kill wherever he wanted? Well, that sounds good. Crab salad. Is it real crab or the imitation crab? Either way, they're good. I'm not allowed to eat any kind of like seafood or fish or anything in my house. My wife hates the smell of it and won't eat it, any kind of fish or seafood at all, ever. So she doesn't want it in the house. So whenever me and my son want to have like fish, we have to go out and eat. That's a marriage right there. It's called compromise. Compromise. Purple, Kitiku, Indiana Marie are going with a B. Walmart greeter. Cement Shoes is going with B as well. Door to door encyclopedia salesman. I just watched something about that Cement Shoes today. I watched a documentary. I don't know why, but I did, about the Encardia encyclopedias and the first version of it and how it lasted until I think 1997. That might be before some people were even born. Yeah, it's a compromise, Pippadot. She doesn't like seafood or fish, so we just don't eat it at home. Even when I go fishing, I catch them. I take them to my friend's house and we eat them there. And I feed him and his little lot of kids. Sprinkled donuts going with B. No clue. Pippadot B. Selling Kirby vacuum cleaners. Last person I met that sold Kirby vacuum cleaners, he actually was the murderer of my friend. The last person I met who actually sold. Kirby vacuum cleaners. I'm sure that they still sell them that way, door to door. That was the last person. Ivory Lady. Good evening, Ivory Lady. Welcome to tonight's trivia. All right, question number 11. The correct answer is B as in boy. He worked as a day laborer. As he moved across the country from place to place, he would go to places that hired individuals as day laborers. And that's the type of work that Samuel Little did. Question number 12 of 20. What was the number one reason so many of Samuel Little's crimes were not investigated? Was it A, no DNA evidence, B, racist police, C, the victims were not found, or D, the marginalized status of the victims? And yes, Pippadot, he did sell drugs, but that wasn't his main source of income from moving across the United States. He sold marijuana. At least that's what he said in the interview with the Texas State, the Texas Ranger, is that occasionally he would sell drugs, marijuana, because it was easy to get and to repackage and resell. But it wasn't his main source of income. It was just something he did occasionally. Question number 12 of 20. They thought he was Flip Wilson. Yeah, he was actually a pretty good guitar player. Played in a couple of different bands too. Night gigs on the weekends, wherever he could. Samuel Little definitely did play music. Guitar player. I think he actually played the banjo as well, but I know he definitely played the guitar. All right. Question number 12. The correct answer is D. The marginalized status of victims was the number one reason why they did not investigate his victims more. Again, it goes back to their African American women. They lived on the edges of society, prostitutes, drug addicts, runaways. It weren't very important to law enforcement to investigate or spend resources on. Question number 13. As Samuel Little traveled the U.S. killing women at random, what alias did he use? Was it A, Black Jack McDowell, B, Connor McDowell, C, Samuel McDowell, or D, Sean Anthony McDowell? Question number 13 of 20. As Samuel Little traveled the U.S. killing women at random, what alias did he use? You played the piano? I'd have to look at my notes, but I'm sure you're right, Kitty Coo. Gianna Marie. Good evening, Gianna Marie, and welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope you had a great weekend. Interpeas Bundy. We have a question tonight with Ted Bundy in it. That's coming up. Just you wait and see, Interpeas. Question number 13 of 20. As Samuel Little traveled the U.S. killing women at random, what alias did he use? The correct answer is C, as in cat. Samuel McDowell. Samuel McDowell is the alias that he used. Question number 14. How many states were law enforcement able to confirm Samuel Little killed in? Was it A, 29, B, 19, C, 10, or D, 48? Question number 14 of 20. How many states did Samuel Little commit murders in that the law enforcement have been able to confirm? Gayla, Ivory, Lady, Purple are going to see Kitty K D question mark. I'm not sure. Question mark. How many states did Samuel Little commit murder in that law enforcement has been able to confirm? Submit Shoes is going with C. Gianna Marie is going with B. Gayla is going with B as well. All right, the correct answer to question number 14 is, in fact, B, as in boy. 19 different states in the United States. Samuel Little has been confirmed to have killed at least one victim. In several of those 19 states, he committed multiple murders in each and every one, but 19 states have been confirmed at this point. The investigation, I want to make sure everyone understands also that the investigation into the homicides of Samuel Little is still open. He's one of the rarities out there when it comes to serial killers and serial murders. When a lot of these individuals, these sick, evil individuals, they either are put to death or they die of natural causes or whatever it is, they close the case on a lot of them. They just don't put the resources into discovering all the crimes anymore. Not in this case with Samuel Little, since there are so many of them. Every single one of his confessed murders in every one of the cases they believe he was actually connected to and may have committed, they're still investigating them all. Question number 15. Here you go. Submit Shoes and Inner Peas and anybody else who is a Ted Bundy fan. Unlike Ted Bundy and his famous VW bug, Samuel Little traveled and killed in style. What type of car did he use? Was it A, Buick Riviera, C, a Cadillac sedan, C, a Ford LTD, or D, a Chevy Aveo? Question number 15 of 20. Unlike Ted Bundy and his famous VW bug, Samuel Little traveled and killed in style. What type of car did he use? Brian Kohlberg. Hey, Yugo. A Yugo with a passenger. It was a mountain lion high on meth. A van down by the river. Was he a motivational speaker? Every time somebody says something like that, Summit Shoes, that immediately I see that, that skit from Saturday Night Live with Chris Farley, and adjusting his pants. You want to end up in a van down by the river? What a tragic loss. You used to work at a few cemeteries? Hmm. I'm not familiar with all of the employment that he did as a laborer, the different aspects of people that hired him. But I wouldn't be surprised by that. I used to, when I lived in oh damn, what town was that? Was it lived outside of Minneapolis? Um, no, not that. Oh God. St. Louis Park. When I lived in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, our neighbor who lived right next to us was a former gravedigger, and he was definitely, mentally not all there. And he would practice digging graves by, a shovel in his backyard every single day. Didn't matter if it was raining, if it was snowing, it didn't matter what the weather conditions were. This man practiced digging graves over and over again. He'd finish them, then he'd fill them in, and then he'd start another one next to it. And he would do this over and over again because he was convinced, and he lost his job as a gravedigger, and because he could not figure out how to use a backhoe, actual machinery. And he was convinced eventually they were going to hire him back once they needed him back to dig graves by, hand. And so he every day he practiced digging graves over and over again. Has he been gone for 28 years already? Damn. All right, question number 15. The correct answer is B as in boy. There was no one type of Cadillac that he, always drove, but every one of his victims, he picked them up in his own personal vehicle and killed them from his own personal vehicle. It was no one type of Cadillac, but he preferred Cadillac, the luxury of a Cadillac. All right, question C. Oh, did you know is next. When Samuel Little was in his late teenager and middle 20s, he was an amateur boxer who had real potential to go professional. He never lost a match. The urge to kill was just too strong, so he went that way instead of boxing. And he did continue to box after in his 20s. He definitely did later on, but when he was younger, he was actually undefeated as an amateur boxer in his late teens and early 20s. Yes, he did lose matches later on, and he had a couple of draws and basic ties, later on. But when he was in his late teens and early 20s, he was a pretty good boxer. But he just couldn't, leave the life of crime alone. Question number 16 of 20. How was Samuel Little finally stopped from reaching his 100 murders, a goal he himself said, I could have made, or maybe I did? Was it A, a traffic stop with a dead victim? B, chance encounter? C, DNA from a cold case? Or D, he was bored and just confessed to it? Hmm. Where is Reichardt? Probably working. I noticed that Reichardt commented on yesterday's stream that Reichardt missed it because they're working. So I'm assuming the same thing for today. These are the things we have to do. Question number 16 of 20. How was Samuel Little finally stopped from reaching 100 murders? All right, the correct answer to question number 16 is, in fact, C as in cat. His DNA from a cold case murder was matched to Samuel Little, and he was arrested and that stopped his spree of killing. DNA from a cold case. I believe the cold case was out of the state of Texas. I do not, unfortunately, have notes on what the victim's name was in that case. Question number 17. According to the FBI files, they have been able to confirm how many victims escaped Samuel Little while he was actively killing. Was it A, 37, B, 32, C, 31, or D, 30? The more you know moment, right? According to the that's spelled according wrong there. To the FBI files, the accordion. According to the FBI files, they have been able to confirm how many victims escaped Samuel Little while he was actively killing. Did he kill as disgusting as Bundy? Gianna Marie, as far as I know, Samuel Little never decapitated any of his victims, nor did he ever go back to practice necrophilia, with any of his victims. He killed them, dumped them, and moved on. Question number 17 of 20. How many victims escaped, according to the FBI file? Linda Alford, Guadalupe Duarte, and Aubrey Everett. Vipidot guessing B. Purple going with D. Here to go D question mark. It could be. I don't know. Could it be D? Sprinkle donut. Total guess. D. Question number 17. The correct answer is D. D as in dog. The FBI in the file on Samuel Little have statements from 30 women that Samuel Little had picked up and had tried to strangulate or to murder, and were able to get out of the vehicle and save their lives, or he was abusive to them. Yeah, Samuel Little, you have to understand, he picked up these women, a lot of them, because he wanted sexual pleasure from them. Especially the prostitutes and drug addicts. I'll give you more drugs, do something for me, and you can have these drugs. It was part of his thing. But they do know that 30 victims actually escaped his clutches. Just think, if he would have murdered all 30 of them, he would definitely be over 100. at murders. Question number 18. He killed well over 90 women, maybe as many as 100, with 97 to 98 confirmed as of 2025. I should put an asterisk next to that. That is based off of what he confessed to and the murders that they believe that he actually is connected to. So it's not really confirmed. It's like, hey, he confessed to 93, and we believe that there are 4 or 5 more that he, is connected to, making it 97, 98. So when did he start confessing to the murders, though? Was it A, 2020, B, 2018, C, in 1999, sing it like Prince sang it, or D, 2014? What is the highest number of victims from a serial killer, Samuel Little, in America? Sprinkled donut. If they're ever able to confirm all of the victims that he said he killed, plus the 4 or 5 that they additionally think that he killed, he would be the most prolific. Even if they only confirm the ones that he confessed to, he would be the most prolific serial killer in America. Worldwide, that I think that would go to one of either the 2 serial killers in Russia, I believe, had like 200 plus. There are some out there that, I mean, and if you really want to get down to it, I mean, you could say that Jim Jones was a serial killer in that aspect, because he convinced all those people to take their own lives. Plus, he made his guards, his military, that protected them, to kill those who didn't want to drink the cyanide-laced Flavor Aid. I mean, some people say that that Jim Jones is the biggest serial killer ever, but that's not exactly technically how you do it. You have to kill 3 or 4 to be considered a serial killer, and you have to do it with a cooling off period in between. So it's not like you kill 3 people, in a shopping mall, and now you're considered a serial killer. You're considered a mass killer. When did Samuel Little start confessing to the murders that he committed? Question number 18 of 20. The correct answer to question number 18 is B. B as in boy. In 2018, Samuel Little, with his health on in a serious decline, he was dying from, well, one of 3 things were eventually going to get him: either liver cancer, and he had pancreatic issues. On top of, he also had some type of like blood issue on top of it. But he knew his time. Regardless, he knew his time on this earth was short. Ooh. Question number 19. Which state was the first to reopen previously closed cold cases because of Samuel Little's confessions? Was it A, California, B, Mississippi, C, Texas, or D, Alabama? Question number 19 of 20. Which state was the first to reopen previously closed cold cases because of Samuel Little's confessions? Pippa Dot's going with C. Gianna Marie is going with A. Smoke them if you got them. Question number 19. Samuel Little, the evil that killed at will. Kitty Q is going with C. Question mark. Could be. Question number 19. The correct answer on what state opened previously closed cold cases. Ooh, purple is absolutely 100% correct. Purple. A, B, C, or D. The state that opened cold cases based solely on Samuel Little's confessions is C as in cat. The state of Texas reopened not one but 3 cold cases that had previously had been closed because of the confessions of Samuel Little. Texas. Question number, it's going to eventually, I'm on Wheel of Death. Question number 20. After suffering from many health conditions for years, Samuel Little died at the age of 80. Where did he actually die? Was it A, Los Angeles County, California, B, Bakersfield, California, C, Memphis, Tennessee, or D, New York, New York? Question number 20 of 20. After suffering from many health conditions for years, Samuel Little died at the age of 80. Where did he actually die? Kitty Key is going with A. So, going with A as well. Ooh, we have A, and A. It looks like everyone's going with A. Where did Samuel Little die at the age of 80? All right, the correct answer to question number 20 is, in fact, A as in apple. Los Angeles County, California is where Samuel Little actually died. Health was failing. He knew his time was near. He only confessed to the murders because he found Texas Ranger James Holland easy to talk with. Plus, they moved him out of the prison to a secured hospital in Los Angeles. That was where he died, was actually in the hospital itself. He did not die in the county jail. But as part of the agreement with Samuel Little to speak with James Holland and give the confessions, they had moved him from the prison to a local county lockup where he could have access to health service, more to health services. But James would bring him Domino's pizza, Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper, and Pepsis, and the two of them would talk, and he would just you can actually find these videos online if you really want to watch them, because they've all been released. And James Holland, before he retired, actually did a great service by not only turning over everything that he had learned about Samuel Little, his movements, his behavior, everything about him that he had written down and videotaped. He turned that over to the FBI. But additionally, on top of that, he took notes on top of that about his mannerism, how he acted, and he said at one point, while Samuel Little was recalling these murders, you could see like the sparkle in his eyes and how alive he was worn out, and just drained of all emotion, but reliving the murder of victim number 50 or whatever it might have been, pick a number between 1 and 100, and he started talking about it, and he would just liven up, and then he'd start talking about the murder as if it just happened like that day, and recalling what she looked like, how she dressed, how she wore her hair, where and picked her up at, what kind of car, a Cadillac model he had at the time, and everything else. And it's frightening to watch someone sit there and then realize this person isn't just telling you a story, that it's like, they made up off their mind. This is someone that he actually had an interaction with and that he killed in the end. It's frightening. All right, special credit, goes out to the AP News Service for helping me with these stories tonight. The FBI Special Agent Susan W., ABC News Houston, CNBC Los Angeles, New York, and the Department of Corrections, Bureau of Prisons in the state of California on confirming some of the information about how he was moved around from place to place during the last years of his life. How did you do on tonight's trivia? Did you get an A, a B, a C, a D, or an E? This is completely optional. You do not have to give yourself a letter grade. We're only here for fun and educational purposes. And nor are we exploiting, these cases for financial gain or for power or control or anything else. We're just hanging out and learning new things about these people. I would have gotten 14 correct tonight and gotten myself an actual A for the first time in a while. But a 14 of the 20 is how many I knew. Again, this is completely optional. You do not need to do this. Sneak peek at this week's poll question. This is an advanced notice. You don't have to answer it in the comment section now, or if you are watching this after it's live, you can answer it then, or you can answer it on the community tab tomorrow. But this is the question of the week. If convicted of any type of crime, be it insider trading, Medicare fraud, or even murder, should they be able to be pardoned by the president? A, yes. B, no. C, maybe, depends on the crime. Or D, no opinion. Teletubbies are evil, though. In case you're wondering about actual presidential pardons, Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, can only pardon someone from a federal crime. He cannot pardon them from a state crime. So if they committed state crime of Medicare fraud or insider trading, which wouldn't be a state crime, it'd be a federal, or they committed murder, and it has to be a federal conviction. He can't pardon them from state prosecutions and sentences, only federal. Every president has that ability, and every president has had that ability. Very rarely have they ever pardoned, murderers, but there have been some in the past. But that is the question of the week. And that is it for our trivia for tonight. Purple, I had fun, and that is all that matters. That is true. We all get A's for effort and participation trophies. Who's this question about? The question of the week is there is no subject matter for the question of the week. The question of the week are just open to interpretation. Insider trading. Donald Trump hasn't pardoned anyone from insider trading. So it doesn't, it's not about the president, the current president. It's just, should the president of the United States be able to pardon people for committing those types of crime or any type of crime at all. It be it insider trading, Medicare fraud, or even murder. Should they be able to pardon people? Should the president be able to pardon individuals? On the way out the door, I mean, Biden handed out pardons like they were Tic Tacs. Some people believe that he really didn't even pardon those people, that because his mentally wasn't there, that he didn't know, it was auto pinned, pardons. Whatever. One side says one thing, the other side says something else. I don't care, and I don't think anybody really cares about if he did it or not. I wish we knew how many each president had pardoned. I saw a list of pardons, Kitty Coo, of how many each president has handed out total, and I think it might be on Wikipedia. But Donald J. Trump, in this term, has pardoned more people than any other president ever in history. And if you put aside just all of the people that he pardoned from the insurrection, of the Capitol, even if you take those and set those aside, all of those numbers, he has pardoned more people than any president ever. That's a fact. And you can, and I think that on the list that I saw, maybe it was on Wikipedia, they list every single person that he has pardoned, and he's still pardoning people right now today. I mean, I don't know if he handed out any pardons today, but most recently he handed out, I think, four more. But there are lists out there. Wrongful convictions happen, so I'm going to say A, says Sprinkle Donut. That's true. It's a very good point. But should that be the position of the president to hand out the pardon? Or should it be the wrongful conviction is overturned and a pardon, or commutation of the sentence is handed down by an act of Congress? Because regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on, ladies and gentlemen, our current political system does not work for the average person. They're not looking out for a whole lot of us anymore. Now the fighting between the two parties, it's all about, can we win? And it only feeding their own system, not us. And I don't care where you are. People are going to hate me for saying that, but it's true. Gayla says, thank you for all the efforts in these trivia nights and live streams. Well, thank you, Gayla. I appreciate that. I'm glad you could be here with us. Thank you, lovely moderators, Inner Peas and Cement Shoes. Thank you. Thank you, Pepper Dot Kittico, says Purple. Stay safe out there. Yeah. Ooh. No truer words have ever been said, Purple. You never know who's going to be standing next to you next. You never know who's going to be knocking at your door. Will, do you know the lady that heads up finding wrongful conviction is the same lady Kim Kardashian freed? What organization is she with? Is she with the Innocence Project? I was not aware that there was somebody that Kim Kardashian helped free who is looking for wrongful convictions. There are several really great organizations out there like the Innocence Project. They come to mind because I've worked with them in the past on putting a spotlight on wrongful convictions. But I was not aware of that, Pippadot. I'm sorry. Thank you, Inner Peas. I appreciate it. I enjoy trivia night more than I mean, I enjoy doing videos, you know, and the Saturday morning, um, the stream, you know, the page two news. I enjoy it, but I look forward to putting together these trivia nights. I really enjoy them. I really do. It's one of the highlights of my week. You know, is finishing up one and then being able to bring them to each and every one of you. Will the Innocence Project? Yes. Kim got her freed. Okay. I wasn't aware of that, Pippadot. Oh, Gala just baked German chocolate cake with coconut pecan frosting. Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. Oh, I might have a chocolate chip cookie when I after I'm done with this. My daughter made them before she went on vacation. There's a tin of them in my house. Excuse me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up tonight's trivia night. I want to say thank you again to everyone. Now, next week on Sunday, that is Father's Day weekend, we will be here for trivia night, same time, same bat channel, as always. So you have a great week. If I don't see you next weekend for trivia night, I'll understand. Same thing with Saturday. But you all stay safe out there. Until next time, I will see you later. Have a great week. Bye.